think something that happens a lot. Well, all of these churches in the United States and Europe, they have all the resources to make good videos and create good content.
Yeah.
And what usually happens is we try to replicate, but unfortunately we forgot about the other issues that are more relevant in our context. At least, well, from where I live, I can say that.
Welcome to season 2 of the Out of the Margins podcast.
The podcast space, especially in the Christian world, is saturated by Western voices. But if we want a diversity of thought to face the future together, we need to step back and hear voices from out of the margins.
Here, we'll be offering insights from experiences and perspectives from the majority world. My name is Edgar.
And I'm Simon.
And we are part of the Langham Partnership team in Australia. And on each episode, we will be bringing to you our conversations with pastors, leaders, and scholars from the majority world.
This podcast is brought to you by Young Langham Australia. On this episode, we're talking about what has become impossible to ignore as a central pillar of our world and our culture in this era. How do majority world churches use the digital space for discipleship? Edgar, you conducted these interviews. Can you tell us a little bit more about digital discipleship?
Well, I got a chance to interview Esteban Amestegui from Ecuador and Langham scholar Vo Hoan Nam from Vietnam, talking about how the digital space is used for discipleship in their own countries, because the challenge is that the digital space brings with it voices from outside, from all over the world. And the louder voices are the ones that influence different contexts. So we talk about those challenges. And both Esteban and both Nam, they are very interested in bringing up the voices that represent their own context. So that's what we'll be talking about, how both in Ecuador and in Vietnam, how the churches try to remain relevant in a digital space for their own context as well.
How they can sort of be amplified in the midst of a sea of different voices.
Exactly.
Awesome. Let's listen.
Hello, Esteban. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode on digital discipleship, all the way from Bolivia.
Yeah, thank you for having me in the podcast. For me, it's a great honor to be part of this episode and to talk about this topic that I find really interesting, and especially to be part of this young initiative that I think it's something that Langham Partnership needs more.
Well, thank you for the comment. We hope that our listeners have been enjoying the podcast. Well, to start with, as our listeners will know, we must start this conversation by asking you first, how do you drink your tea?
Well, I think I should mention that in Bolivia, we usually drink tea at breakfast, along with some bread and a piece of cheese, and also at dinner with the same menu.
Okay.
But one of the most popular teas is cinnamon tea. And we buy a box of 20 bags, and that will usually cost approximately 2 cents. So it's very, very cheap. It's the
Really?
popular tea that we have it. Personally, I drink a lot of yerba mate, which is becoming very popular worldwide.
Yeah.
And it's drunk from a round cup into which the yerba mate is placed, and you consume it through a straw, call it a bombilla, and you need to constantly refill it with hot water or cold water. And it's often shared at gatherings of all kinds. Everyone has a drink and then pass it to the next person. Which is kind of funny, is that some people are not very familiar with it. So often they think it's a smoking pipe. And it has led to humorous encounters with missionaries who think it's a different kind of herb.
That's funny. But actually, I thought that it was mainly from Argentina, the mate.
Yes. Well, in reality, they They drink it a lot in Argentina,
Mm,
Uruguay,
mm,
Paraguay, but also a small part of Brazil, where they have the same culture,
mm, mm.
gauchos, which is fascinating. But it has become more popular. There are a lot of people from Bolivia who travel to Argentina to work,
Yeah.
and then they come back and they bring all of this.
Okay.
The fascinating thing is that we usually have more mate from Paraguay and also from Brazil.
Oh.
They are producing more. And the special kind of tea that we have in Bolivia is the coca leaf tea. In Bolivia, the coca leaf is sacred. It's a sacred leaf. So for the Andean culture. So when you just have the coca leaf, it doesn't have any psychoactive effect.
Mm, mm.
And people make tea for that, and it's good for the stomach.
Oh.
If you have eaten a lot,
Yeah.
it helps you with the digestion, and it also helps with the altitude because, well, my city is 2,500 meters above the level of the sea.
Mm, mm.
So some people, when they arrive in the airplane, they feel dizzy and kind of sick.
Okay.
So we invite them a cup of tea of coca leaves, and they feel better. And it has no psychoactive effect, and it's all legal.
Oh wow.
But if you come to Bolivia and you want to take some bags of tea to your country, that's something I wouldn't recommend it.
Why not? Why not?
Well, I don't know. They might misinterpret the coca leaf in your intentions.
Totally. Okay, but thank you for that. Thank you for that. Well, and now can you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your involvement with Langham and your personal life in Bolivia?
Sure. Well, I am involved with Langam in different teams. On one hand, I assist with the administrative tasks for Latin America,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and I do my best to keep an updated database of all the events, reports, contacts from the region.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't do this alone. In fact, we have a good team of regional coordinators who are the stars here, and they are doing an spectacular work.
Mm,
On the other hand, I collaborate with an international team called Langham Connect,
mm.
where we promote learner centered facilitation
Yeah.
and liberating education. What does that look like? Well, we design lessons that are suitable for our context, and we constantly rethink how to teach our preaching program to meet the needs of our communities.
Mm,
Additionally, I participate in creating materials with a more visual component, and I design and sometimes collaborate with others to create infographics and illustrations that make our resources more accessible for everyone.
mm.
I live in Cochabamba, Bolivia.
Yeah.
I'm married. My wife Alejandra and I have a small child, a daughter who is 2 years old, and we are having fun learning and about being parents
Yeah.
and watch her grow. She's starting to speak, so
Oh, that's amazing.
she always have a
Exciting.
fun thing to say.
Yes.
We collaborate in my church. We have a small group with young people who are also parents who are in the same stage of life. So it's very nice. We meet, we share the devotional or a Bible study, and while our kids are playing together. So
Mm.
it has been a good experience.
Do you have any other involvements with Langham in the digital space?
Sure. So when the pandemic happened, the majority of our seminars, they were in person. Actually, I will say almost all of our seminars and meetings were in person, at least the formation of preachers.
Yeah.
So we had a huge problem with that because we could no longer travel, and we had to meet on Zoom and start doing all of our program that were done in 3 intense days of learning and doing the lessons together.
Mm.
So it has been a huge challenge for us. And that's how actually Langham Connect started, because doing the same things that we do in person
Yeah.
digitally sometimes doesn't translate so well. So we were rethinking about how can we do the same lessons on Zoom, on Google Meet, on WhatsApp, and how
Yeah.
can still have our preaching movements moving forward.
Yeah.
In the region that I work, thank God, instead of decreasing the size of our preaching movement, actually we've been able to make them grow.
Oh, that's
So
amazing.
that's been something that we are really happy that it has been an opportunity to grow, not only on the way we do things,
Yeah.
but also grow as a community.
Well, that's very encouraging to hear because also that was the case that many churches around the world they have to resource to live streaming the services because that was the way that people could still have fellowship through the digital space. So I'm interested to hear about how is the Christian digital media landscape in Bolivia like?
So, as you mentioned, the digital has grown significantly in the Christian sphere during the pandemic. The restriction forced many churches to adopt social media and live stream their services or meet via Zoom.
Mm,
Although now we are back to normal, and that meant to return to physical gatherings,
yeah.
many churches have remained active on social media.
Hmm.
Sometimes the interactions online from churches or the content they create, it's cringeworthy. Some of them, they have done a really good job, and their communities are growing.
So churches live streaming their services are not as prevalent anymore?
Well, many of them, because they have young people, they started live streaming with their cell
Mm,
phones. Some churches that live under more difficult
yeah.
circumstances and have more economical struggles, I think they left it.
Mm,
But other churches that are kind of bigger and their members go live in better areas and have better conditions, they have continued.
mm,
I think at least many churches started to record the sermons,
yeah.
at least the audio version. And yeah,
Mm,
well, in some areas, we have connectivity issues,
mm,
especially in Bolivia,
yeah.
because we are at the center of South America.
Yeah.
The countries that have connections to the sea, they have better internet connections. Uh, in the rural areas
Yeah.
and cities like mine, internet is more expensive
Mm,
and it's slower than the in the rest of the world.
mm, mm,
But I must say, many churches at least start having WhatsApp groups.
mm,
They created their Facebook, Instagram pages, and
yeah.
some of them even started to use TikTok or
Mm,
Instagram Reels. So
mm,
there's a variety of reactions
yeah.
to
Yeah.
what happened after the pandemic.
Certainly, social media is quite commonly used by churches all around the world as a way to communicate with people both inside of the church and also outside of the church. But I'm interested also to hear about what other mediums are used in Bolivia to communicate and to offer Christian content.
Well, radio has always been kind of big for churches here in Latin America,
Mm,
or at least South America. TV also, but usually the more Pentecostal churches are involved. Regarding platforms, I think Zoom is the app that I've seen some youth groups use for Bible studies or even daily devotionals.
mm,
So sometimes it's more convenient for them to meet on Zoom than gather in a physical space, especially with the daily devotionals.
right.
I think WhatsApp is probably the most used app for church
Mm,
communication with their groups and for following up with their disciples.
yeah.
So yeah, that has been really encouraging, because you have in email you have an open rate of 20% in the best cases scenario.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
But with WhatsApp, usually it's at least 2 years ago, it was 98% open rate.
Mm-mm.
So if you want to receive an answer from someone, at least in Bolivia and South America, WhatsApp is your
Mm-mm.
best way to communicate with them.
Yeah.
I have a few fun study cases about churches involved in the digital
Yeah.
world. One is from a Spanish priest streamer who played video games live on Twitch.
Right.
He became very beloved by the streaming community and shared stream with some of the most popular content creators in the Hispanic world.
Wow.
And he did all of this while still sharing his message. The other one interesting study case is a Peruvian Catholic church that rebuilt the temple they have
Hmm.
on Roblox. You know that video game, right?
No, actually, no.
Kind of like it's okay. It's kind of like Minecraft.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sure I'm offending someone by saying that, but
No, I
they
know.
they
Yeah, I
re-
know of Minecraft. Yes.
uh so they rebuilt the temple and they start having their services on the platform.
Oh,
And when they have liturgical calendar events, they have the processions and everything on Roblox.
there you go.
And they were in the news. Many children and young people connected to their services and participated in the
There
activities
you go.
they organized.
I was very curious that you mentioned WhatsApp because that's something that I'm very aware of. That people in Latin America don't use email. WhatsApp is a more common way of communication, formally or informally. That's the way that people prefer to communicate. For those who are listening, if you are trying to get in touch, communicate with someone from Latin America using email, just get their phone number and use WhatsApp. That would be the best way, and they will actually reply to you. So just use WhatsApp.
Yes, 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 yes. And usually people here, they sent an email
Mm,
and then they sent a WhatsApp message. I sent you an email.
yeah.
Please check it out.
Yes, it's very interesting because here in Australia, of course, people use WhatsApp, but it's not used to the same extent as it is used in Latin America. Even churches they prefer to use Facebook for updating people on church news or things like that. They just use Facebook or even Facebook Messenger, but WhatsApp is not a common channel that is used for that.
Yes, and especially because on Facebook you have the algorithm that sometimes shows your content and sometimes it doesn't show it.
Mm,
And even in your community with the people who follow you.
yeah,
And because that changes all the time, it's always good to have like the contacts
yeah,
of the people who you want to reach.
yeah. Like,
And in that sense, WhatsApp has been really useful.
mm. Yeah, I also wanted to ask you about particular topics. Are there particular topics that both churches and also content creators share on social media that resonate more with people?
Sure. Well, usually Christian content creators often upload sermons. They usually also respond to things that people say about Christian faith. They have this type of apologetic
Mhm.
clarifications like
Oh,
I don't know, someone will say that perhaps something that Jesus said we misunderstood, and
yeah.
they have like a secular understanding of that text.
Mm,
And usually a pastor will say, well, you that's a misinterpret. Actually, the Bible passage is saying this,
yeah.
and then they will clarify.
Mm,
I think this is something because the church usually are connected with to the West,
mm,
to organizations in the United States or in Europe.
yeah.
What is important in those contexts becomes important also in our context.
Mm,
So there's a lot of discussion about sexuality, the homosexuality more specifically,
mhm.
and also abortion is a huge topic for Christian content creators. Uh, Sometimes I don't know if that's very contextual
Mm,
for us,
yeah. That's
because we also have issues with inequality,
mm,
with poverty,
yeah.
and yeah, and a lot of that stuff. But usually that
Mm,
becomes another topic. But I must recognize it has been a very controversial topic all around the world.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it's only the influence from the West, but at least there's a lot of funding for
Mm.
talking about those issues.
That's a very good point that you raise with social media. And I guess this is one of the risks with social media because it's available all over the world and different topics can get more attention. But of course, not all of these topics are relevant to everyone. So content creators need to be more aware of the local context and making sure that they're actually addressing topics that connect with people, that actually address issues that people are facing in their context.
Exactly, and I think something that happens a lot. Well, all of these churches in the United States and Europe, they have the all the resources to make good videos
Mm,
and create good content.
yeah.
And what usually happens is we try to replicate, and even I've heard some pastors that they translate the sermons and they do the
Uh,
same. So
right.
maybe that's something that that happens.
Yeah.
I think those issues, sexuality and abortion, are really important, and
Yeah.
those are topics that we need to address. But unfortunately, we forgot about the other
Mm,
issues that are
mm,
more relevant in our
yeah.
context. At least, well, from where I live,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can say that.
Yes, of course. Now, I know that you have a podcast. Can you tell us a little bit more about the type of content that you create?
Sure. Well, the name of my podcast is Subversivo, which means subversive. Initially, my podcast was intended to be a space where you can discuss topics that churches often avoid and create a space for dialogue around them. So that's why if we talk about postmodernism, ecology, the political reality of my country,
Mm,
sexual abuse within the Christian church,
mm,
the pandemic and how churches should have responded,
mm,
and topics like that. However, in recent years, I want to promote a decolonial approach to faith through the podcast.
mm,
Today, we can see how many churches have an interpretation on the end of times that leads them to celebrate armed conflict, violent conflicts, and justify human rights violations and the oppression of many nations.
mm,
So that's a topic that I recognize that
mm.
I want to be more working more.
Yes, that's very important that content creators recognize the type of influences that they have from outside and that they seek to contextualize the content and that they seek to analyze and address local issues that people actually can find helpful.
Yeah, a fun thing that I can share with you. I've been reading chapters from a book from Justo Gonzalez, who is a Latin American theologian.
Yeah.
And in one of the chapters, he was analyzing how Hispanic people interpret the book of Exodus. Something really fascinating is that in the majority world, when people read the book of Exodus, the key part of that book is the liberation of the people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for Western societies, is the arrival of the law.
Right.
So it makes a lot of difference, and it gives you a different perspective and understanding of the book of Exodus. And I think both analysis can be necessary,
Yeah.
but something that the majority world has to offer on interpretation
Mm,
is that we many times we live in conditions of oppression like the people of God lived
yeah.
um, during history, and we continue to live.
Yeah.
So our perspective can give us more lights on how to interpret the text,
Mm.
like the original audience or the original listeners would have interpreted.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's a small example of just by living in the majority world, it can give us a different perspective and it can help other people and other cultures to help understand from a different view.
Yes, and that's exactly what this podcast, Out of the Margins, is all about. That we want to bring these different perspectives from around the world. We want to encourage people like yourself to highlight your own context and bring up this particular perspective that is more relevant for you and that also maybe others can learn from. So I'm wondering if there is a particular trend that you are observing in terms of content creation in Latin America.
Well, I think especially with the community within Langam, we have people that are having that perspective. For example, I could mention Marcelo Vargas, who is a Langam scholar.
Yeah.
He's from La Paz, Bolivia. He's from my country, and he has a book in Langam literature about I think the indigenous interpretation of the gospel
Mm.
or something related to that. Another one is Jocabet Solano
Mm.
from Panama,
Yeah.
who she works with an organization named Memoria Indígena, who and it's really fascinating what she does, and well, she works or she's been involved with Lausanne, with Langam, with many organizations. So yeah, I'm sure more than one person may have heard about her. And well, there's a community named SETI in Spanish. It is the community of interdisciplinary theological studies,
Mhm.
and they are also very keen to that. And there's an Argentinian content creator named Lucas Magnin
Yeah.
who has a YouTube channel. He has a series called Pop Pop Theology, which is a lot of fun. He makes very good videos. Think he does those videos with with his wife, and they're really good, and they talk about all of these very difficult topics and in a very professional way. And yeah, another resource that I could mention that are following that trend will be Ediciones Kairos. Well, it's not a trend for them. They've been doing this for many years.
Yeah.
But Ediciones Kairos, they publish very, very good books. And
Mm.
usually they have these ideals. So I highly recommend any book from them.
Mm.
They do a very good work on deciding which books to publish and which not. And yeah, they whatever they publish, it has a lot of quality. But that's a very, very small part of the
Yeah.
digital Christian community.
Yeah.
And I think the majority of people see a great potential within music, TikTok, and podcasts.
Mm.
However, at times it feels like their intention is to be influencers.
Yeah.
So they focus on increase their followers number
Mm.
and potentially live very well of it. So
Mm. Mm. Yeah.
create content and live from the content they create.
Yeah.
The emphasis is too much on themselves,
Mm.
which, as we know, can potentially be very dangerous.
Yes, definitely. That is a risk, a danger that people that create content can easily fall into. And yes, it's good to be aware of those things and not to let what is popular or what is trending shadow or distort the core content that we want to communicate, which for Christian content that will be the gospel. So we want to make sure, of course, that that remains the core of the message. Are there any other thoughts that you want to close with and to share with our listeners?
Well, I think that I hope that churches will see the potential of focusing on their communities
Yeah.
and their needs
Mm.
and their growth, that they will see members of their churches not just as numbers, but as people created in God's image.
Mm.
And I think digital ministry runs the risk of becoming very impersonal, elevating the role of the content creator, and this can develop a parasocial relationship among the followers. So I believe now there is too much emphasis on content creation itself,
Mm. Mm.
but if this shifts more towards community centered
Yeah.
interactions within, it could lead not only to growth in numbers, but also growth in the members
Mm.
and their impact on
Yeah.
society. And, when you mention discipleship, it's hard to have discipleship just by listening a sermon.
Mm.
And for example, we have people here who don't want to go to their local church
Yeah.
because every Sunday they see a live stream from a popular church in the United States.
Oh.
And they feel like by listening that and participating in the live stream, that's good enough. But they are missing part of some of the most key things that we have
Mm.
as Christians, that is community and have fellowship with one another.
Yeah.
And so I really hope that churches will start focusing more in this type of interactions,
Mhm.
this type of start having a community
Yeah.
instead more of numbers and sermons that only the pastor speaks and no one can interact with that more than a comment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really look forward to see how people will start use the digital
Yeah.
ministry.
Well, thank you so much, Esteban, for joining us today and for all the wisdom that you share with us. And all the best with your podcast and all your projects in the future.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation. I love the project and everything about this podcast, and it has been really encouraging to interact with someone from Langham, Australia, who also speaks Spanish. So it has been really refreshing and encouraging.
Now, let's move on to hear from Langham scholar Nam from Vietnam.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nam. Now I'm serving with the Church, Evangelical Church of Vietnam as a pastor, and also serving with Bible Society Vietnam, and also in church. I'm pastoring a church and also supporting our denomination to do discipleship for young people. And my research is on digital media and youth discipleship in Vietnam and also in the context of the world.
Well, thank you for taking the time for recording this podcast. Something that we always start with our guests is that we ask how do you drink your tea?
Yeah, tea is not popular in Vietnam. We drink more coffee, but I'm a tea person. So tea in Vietnam is hot, so normally we drink iced tea. So
All right, iced tea.
iced tea.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah, tea, nice. And then the young people like the bubble tea.
Oh,
So
of course,
sometimes,
of course.
you know, the so I work with young people, so we also
You
drink
also
bubble tea. So bubble iced tea.
Oh, there you go. That's awesome. I'm guessing it's a hot weather and you need something cold rather than hot.
Yes, that's
There you go.
correct.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, thank you for that. Let's start then with the topic at hand. So, to start us with, can you describe the kind of the digital landscape, the Christian digital landscape in Vietnam?
Well, interesting question. According to statistics, Vietnam has 78 million internet users, so accounting for 79% of the population.
Wow.
And 72 million people are using social media, so accounting for 73% of the population. And to your surprise, 168 million for mobile connection. So it's equivalent to 169% of the population.
Wow.
So more people have mobile connection than
Wow.
the population itself. Like population is less than 100 million people. So we have like 168 million mobile phone. Yeah, so one
What?
people can use like 2 mobile phone.
Oh,
So it's
wow,
very interesting. With that
interesting.
landscape, so we can see the search in digital
Mm,
space, but for Christian media, we are a bit slow, but it's
mm,
growing, but not is the trend of
yeah.
it, not as it should be, because like there's some gap, especially for the ethnic minority. Now, the Bible is still not available in some of the ethnic minority language,
Right.
and
Right.
also with the ethnic minority groups already the Bible already translated. There's still a lack of printed Bible or even no Bible
Yeah.
allowed to print in their language. So online space and then digital app like YouVersion or
Mm,
the Viet Bible app
yeah.
are important. So ethnic minority people can access to app like YouVersion in their ethnic minority language. But
Mm,
even though there's still some limitation
yeah.
because not all are available there, and the Bible is still under translating is for some of the language because I'm working for Bible Society, so we are doing some translation.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and even with those Bible already translated, it's still not be printed yet with a limited amount,
Mhm.
limited number of copies. So people still rely more on the
Yeah.
reading, on the
Yeah.
preaching of the pastor. Though the Bible is available in the
Mm,
Vietnamese language, it's a common language for all people, but some ethnic groups may not understand fully what is written, or they can read the whole things with greater
yeah.
understanding. So the Bible is still be needed for their own mother tongue's language, and also app for reading, and also they can listen to the Bible.
Mm,
It
mm,
is important. So we are working harder to provide the Bible in printed form and also in digital format, and also audio and video on YouTube or other apps also.
yeah.
So the church was
Mm,
proactively using live streaming app like live stream is on YouTube
yeah.
or Facebook during the COVID pandemic.
Mm,
So the
mm,
church migrated online. But
yeah.
after then, some church adopt a hybrid one. It means people attend church, but those who cannot then go online. But
Yeah.
some church decided to stop that because the number of people like going to church going down. So there is
Yeah.
some church decided to stop that. Some church keep it, and some church stop it, but they still put a video recording of the sermon
Mm,
online for those people who are sick and
yeah.
cannot access, or those who want to look back and listen
Yeah.
again to the
Mm,
sermon. So there are some apps for Bible reading, for devotional
yeah.
apps. Now,
Mm,
the church are using quite proactively Facebook groups or the chat, like similar to WhatsApp, we call Zalo one, or Viber to connect groups. Some
okay.
churches use Zalo, some churches use Viber,
Yeah.
but most of them use Zalo in Vietnam. Zalo famous so for church announcement or everything. So they have a groups for like women, for adult, for youth, for
Yeah.
deacons.
Oh, that's great. That's great. But it seems like the digital space is quite embraced in Vietnam in that sense. And of course, like you mentioned, after COVID, during COVID, the live streaming was something that all over the world, all the churches has to resource to, and it's interesting to see that some churches still stick to that, offering that resource for online as well. That's a thing, and I think it's fairly normal here in Australia. I would say also majority of churches stay offering online services as well. So in that regard, do you think obviously there are pros and cons in using the digital space for, like you say, some people that are sick Also, maybe the elderly, they can't come to church anymore. The online space is very useful for them. So can you speak into those things, both the pros and cons for the digital
Yeah.
media?
Yeah, when I visit the elderly people at my church, they say it's good to have the service live stream because they cannot go to church. It's very difficult, or they can only go once a month, so they
Yeah.
really miss that church. So
Mm.
during the pandemic, they was happy. Vietnam has a very long lockdown, like
Oh, yeah?
at other countries. So during that time, the people say they are happy because they know what is going on with the church.
Yeah.
But when there's no lockdown, then the church go very, very go down like a lot, and
Yeah.
some church decide to stop live streaming and to call people come back. Like
Yeah.
my church, after like transition for half a year, and finally church decided no live streaming, but
Mm.
they will put back the sermon recording, the recording of the sermon,
Right.
maybe 3 days later or something for people
Mm.
to listen.
Mm.
But some of the people who cannot go, then they still attend like some other other online church
Yeah.
live stream. It's certainly true that the internet have both positive and negative influences on the youth and also on the people. We can see that youth was born and surrounded by digital media.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for them, there's no distinction between online and offline,
Yeah.
not much like the adult one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And online space can be a window that the adult can get to know more about people. And
Mm.
nowadays, even like older people also, they share a lot of their life on
Yeah.
social media. So it's a good window to get to know people. So there's a huge potential for us, the
Mm.
pastor, the leaders, to take care of people, not only online, not only offline, but also online,
Yeah.
on cyberspace, to take care of them and also take into consideration what is good about digital media, and also the pitfalls that like it can make people addicted to
Yeah.
things, and also like stop like meeting people face to face or
Yeah.
something. But when I served as a youth worker at a local church in Vietnam, I found that Facebook gave me very good opportunity to get to know
Mm.
and interact with young people.
Right. Right.
So I also minister to some young people who drop out of their school due to addiction to online games.
Mm.
And beside befriending them at youth service, small groups, and also other face-to-face activity, I ask them to go to the park and
Yeah.
walk and do things. I also befriend them, accompany them on Facebook, and take care of them when.
Yeah.
So the young people in Vietnam use Facebook a lot.
Mm.
So it's good to take care of them throughout the week, because
Yeah.
we only meet them like 2 times in church, or on
Mm.
Sunday, or like on midweek Bible study. So throughout the week, they can chat, they can talk to me anytime,
Mm.
have them. Also, digital technology challenge the church to get to know the culture of the people nowadays. Rather than just stand on the pulpit and preach out to the people, you need to get to know them, where
Yeah.
they are,
Mm.
what they need to learn, what is their need,
Mm.
and
Mm.
what do they like. And our context give us a chance to
Yeah.
be open to all people, to reach out to people where they are. So
Yes.
before COVID, people very, how they say, skeptical,
Mm.
especially not in Vietnam, but like the Western world with a lot of study, they are very skeptical about digital space and
Yeah.
see it not evil
Mm.
in
Mm.
that. But with the pandemic come,
Yeah.
then
Exactly.
people are more open to it. But we need
Mm.
to be aware of the pitfalls of
Mm.
digital media. And with young people, the addiction to smartphone, FOMO, fear of missing out, and a lot of things,
Yeah.
and a lot of noise. So we need to teach the young people to use social media wisely.
Mm.
So we need to
Mm.
educate them with how to use social media, digital device. So I'm working with young people a lot. So in youth meeting, We educate them. We tell them how
Mm.
good about digital media, but also you can be addicted to
Yeah.
these. So make sure. And for our youth camp, for 5 days every summer, we will have like say no social media, no smartphone,
Oh
no smart
wow,
device.
that's
So
great.
for like 15 years or 20 years ago, we decided no technology like iPod or whatever. So
Yeah.
leave it at home. For
Yeah.
5 days, you will be with only the Bible and with all the activity
Yeah.
in the camps. So, but later on in my research, I found that there's one research that say 5 days for the teenager away from the smart device, smartphone
Yeah.
that can help them to calm down and to actually it make them wiser and stronger
Wow.
mentally. The five
Oh,
day. So, but we have
that's
been like
amazing.
practicing it like for 15 or 20 years until now. The youth in my church with the youth camp no smart device, and I teach them to be silent, to be in solitude. So they will have
Mm.
the quiet devotion, prayer walk up to the mountain and prayer. So they really enjoy it. So
Yeah.
the youth, they know that they need something else, but
Mm.
because nobody tell them what to be in solitude, to be
Mm.
in quiet, mm, to open their life to God.
Yeah.
So after 5 days, they come back to their smartphone. They still use it a lot, but they know the danger of it in a
Yeah.
sense.
That's amazing. And like you are explaining, it's very useful to being able to access the online space and tools like Facebook. And I can see how definitely that helps you in your ministry with the youth. But also, like you're saying, uh, being wise in how to stop and not being controlled by it is part of the of knowing how to use technology, right? Not being consumed by it, but using it
Yes.
as it is a tool, and it's very useful also for ministers like yourself to being still have contact throughout the week, right, with the youth. And but yeah, I think that's some people are kind of afraid or hesitant to use the digital space because of the dangers of it. But I think the way that you are explaining how you apply it in your church and in your ministry, I think is amazing. And I think that's it really shows the power of it.
So despite the wonderful benefits brought by digital technology that I presented, uh, digital technology can also lead the people to isolation and loneliness. So like the young people really thirst for community. And then Facebook provide a community with friends,
Yeah.
with like. So you remember the first button of Facebook is like. So
Yeah.
people, youth, now
Mm.
they need time and space to grow and to find their own identity. But
Mm.
they are cheated by Facebook with all the friends are there,
Yeah.
and then the people like, so they do all things. So they thought they found a community, but like they are drinking salt water. So they are thirsty and very thirsty and in
Mm.
danger with isolation and things. So the solution to this kind of isolation is we need to spend time together with people,
Yeah.
visitation, meeting face to face. And this requires us to sacrifice our time and energy and reach out to people both online and offline. Right now, it seems that it's easy to meet online, and then even like with visitation. So during my time when I served as a youth minister for like more than 8 years, home visitation is very important. But
Mm.
nowadays it's getting more difficult because people can just FaceTime,
Mm.
call, video call, and then they don't see everything. And you
Yeah.
can see that people can put like a lot of like makeup, virtual makeup.
Virtual
They
makeup.
don't see. So if I visit a youth, I see like their parents, how they live and everything, the whole things. But just
Mm.
hearing to the voice or it visiting online,
Yeah.
then it will be very difficult to know everything.
Mm.
So
Mm.
we need to sacrifice our time and effort to be involved more with the people to get to know them offline, but also online. We need to create content more proactively and provide them with all the guidelines, support, and nurturing. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it's true. I myself I work as a pastor for a church, and I take care. I'm responsible for the online space, all the digital content that we have. So it's definitely a danger, I will say, like you're explaining, because it's easy to say send an email or just call someone, but also being intentional about actually meeting one to one, I think is definitely is part of it. Like that's the danger. Like we will, if you only use the digital space, you can forget that you can actually meet people in person.
Yeah. And we thought that youth like to meet online, but during the pandemic, everything went online. Then why the adults still keep online,
Yeah.
but the youth drops terribly. So like youth service will normally have like 40 youth,
Mm.
and in the end, it will last less than 10 youth go online. And
Wow.
then even like one time, it's just only one youth with like 3 or 4
Yeah. Wow.
leaders, pastors. So
There
the
you
youth really want to touch to have face-to-face meeting, to play with their friends,
Yeah.
to hit their friends, to
Mm.
kick their friends, to laugh, to hug their friends. So we
Yeah.
thought that online space will give them more creativity and more
Yeah.
things. But actually, in the end, youth really want a real connection to see their
Yeah.
friend,
Yeah.
bring to eat with their friend. So
Mm.
we need to balance that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I think definitely it's not a matter of choosing one or the other, right? But actually knowing when to use one and make use of the digital space, but also of course in person interactions is something that is definitely necessary for discipleship, like that can be put aside. Yeah. Yeah, in terms of topics, I'm wondering for people who create content on YouTube, on social media, what type of topics, is there a kind of a theme or pattern you can observe in the type of content that is created online?
yeah, so I can see that the focus is more on discipleship. So with sermon, Bible, knowledge of the Bible, but less on like reaching out to non-believer. It seems like the content quite outdated in a sense, with only focus on Christian living, knowing the Bible and then do
Mm.
devotion, prayer, and read the Bible.
Yeah, that's very interesting. What you're saying, that the focus is more on discipleship rather than reaching out to non-believers as well. Can you give us what's the percentage of the religions in Vietnam actually?
So the Protestant is 1%.
Yep.
Is 1%. Catholic is around 6 to 7%. The number of those who call themselves Buddhist and ancestor worship is bigger than
Mm.
really devoted Buddhists. But it's it's quite they say, I guess it's around 30 to 40 call themselves Buddhist
Buddhist.
percent Buddhist, and atheists is a lot. Yeah. But
Oh.
actually they're not real atheists. Actually they still like like still believe in like
Yeah.
ancestor worship and
Yeah.
somehow. So yeah, but
Mm.
Christianity number is quite small. So that the history of Vietnam, some of the ethnic groups, they was converted not because of the missionary, but because of the radio broadcast
Oh wow.
from the Philippines
Oh really?
via space. Yeah. So like the Hmong people, like or the people in the highland, they have the radio, and then they listen to the radio program in their own mother tongue's language,
Wow.
and then they was converted. And then because the ethnic minority, they are animists, so the convention, and also they have the leader of the village. If the leader believe, then the whole village believe. So in some village, you will see like 100% of people in the village are converted. And the
Yeah.
history traces back to long time ago through radio. And now we can do it easily with with most of the population as can access to
Yeah.
smartphone and apps, and
Yeah, exactly.
we need to be more proactive in sharing of the gospel
Mm.
online to people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very, very amazing how the broadcasting had a huge influence in Christianity then in Vietnam.
Yes. Yeah. So because now we are like digital space now is flat world, people access to everything.
Yeah.
But somehow the people still stick to their own community in a sense. Um,
Yeah. That's definitely something that I think we all need to keep growing into. Definitely. Is there any last things you would like to share with our audience before we finish?
like the theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer in his letter and papers from prison,
Yeah.
he asked the question of what Christianity is and who Jesus Christ actually is for Christian today.
Yeah.
And I think this question is still relevant for Christian in the digital age. We need to keep asking who Jesus Christ is actually is for us
Yeah.
in Vietnam, for the church, and in the world also.
Yeah.
So digital age bring profound change to culture and people's self-identity. And it change both the way we think, we act, and how we look at how people look at themselves and others in the world.
Mm.
And digital communication and technology have changed our relationship with information and also other people from static structure to dynamic connection.
Mm.
And then they also create new forms of social connection and information sharing and promote individual choice and freedom. So the media with interesting things with word, sound, and visual image can engulf our life and inform us the way we live. And morality is redefined in accordance with the rules demanded by social media. So as Christian, we need to reflect and we need to
Mm.
think how to interpret the gospel in this
Yeah.
days and age. And there's a lot of discussion on this, but I think we
Mm.
can cut it short. Um, as Jesus was born into the cultural realities of his day, our church need to pursue the convergent and holistic discipleship that weaves together the physical and the virtual reality realms of every day life, and at the same time be aware of the danger of allowing the online space to hinder our authentic relationship with God and with the community
Yeah.
in a sense.
Mm.
So, last word, discipleship is encountering Christ in daily life, both on online and offline. And online space can provide us the opportunity for church leaders, adults, and people who are mature in faith to get to know more about other people, especially young
Mm.
people who are open to share their life online and
Mm.
raising their voice and getting some attention, especially those who, the disabled, the people who are marginalized.
Mm.
The people who are marginalized, they can raise their voice and get some attention using online means, online communication. So the church is called to become all things to all people, to reach out to the people wherever they are, even online, and especially nowadays, people are really surrounded by digital media. We need to foster a community with care where people can become disciples of Christ in both physical and digital world. Though the word God words remain unchanged, and but our Christian understanding and application will continue to evolve in every age and
Mm.
ready to adapt to the new changing characteristic of the culture
Yeah.
and the people affected by it and the advanced technology that come with it. So we need to work harder. And for Vietnam, we need to be
Mm.
more proactive in creating good content
Mm.
that meet the need of the church and also help the church to engage with the society in their
Mm.
everyday life. And with young people, we need to take care really a good care of them
Yeah.
because young people really involve a lot
Mm.
online in a
Yeah.
sense.
Mm.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
all from
Thank you for those words. I think that definitely an encouragement, and I think not only for Vietnam but also again even here in Australia. Thank you for that, Nam. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode, and we hope that you found this episode insightful and refreshing as we heard from our guest.
Yes, and at Out of the Margins, we long to hear the voices of majority world people amplified on the global and digital stage. And to see our brothers and sisters in the majority world and here in the West continue to be built up in the faith by Christian leaders like Esteban and Vo. But work like this cannot happen without the generous support of people like you. If you've enjoyed what you've heard and you have the resources to spare, we'd ask you to prayerfully consider donating to Langham Partnership at au.langham.org/donate.
Yes, if you enjoy this podcast, we would love for you to share with friends, family, or online. If you want to connect with us, you can also email us at australia@langham.org. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.